This is a structural logistics model where Kurt and I have thought about each project and kind of just put them all together. So first, I want to explain each circle independently. Don't look at the whole picture. Just imagine each of these circles as its own independent entity, right? So each circle is a community. And when I say community, we're looking at the different types of demographics. Youth, adults, African American, Hmong, and so on and so forth. Now, from there, I believe the Gorilla project and the mobile project, they land in these areas. This is where you gather communities and professionals and then connect them. This is the connection right here, right in these areas. And then after that, from community to connection, it goes into the hub. This is where the hub. It's where all these pieces connect. And so the hub, that's where I'm assuming the modules, and they'll probably explain this a little bit later. Modules, we'll look at the proposals, the applications. This is where the equipping and the training occurs. Community is, again, this is where the topics are. This is where the issues are. It's in the community, right? This is where the people are. The networks, this is where, this is the mobile arm, this is the connecting, this is the outreach, that's their self-evaluation, what's their issue, we're there just to listen to them, the empathy part, and then perhaps, I forget why I put implement, but yeah.
Where's the fellowship?
The fellowship, you guys can explain to us where it would be. I'm not quite sure about that yet.
Then GoCreate.
That way, this is constantly moving, right? So as folks get equipped, they're still part of the community, and they move back out into the community, and they're part of these overlapping networks as well.
Okay.
Cool.
So that's the
Nice.
overall picture.
Was that the lotus flower inspired?
Yeah, the lotus flower was a little bit too complex. This is the super simplified version.
Got it.
The most simplified version.
I like the lotus.
I like the little fire too.
Great.
Good.
Okay, now let's, do you want to go then to the kitchen?
No, why not
Okay,
start?
let's
Start.
It has always threes, right? I mean, that's the metaphor for the day, right?
Right.
3 rings, 3
It's
crowns.
not-
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit about, this is the idea, this is a strategy of how to build community engagement. It's guerrilla tactics to build buzz, establish some buy-in, and I like trusted relationships because I think that's what we've been lacking in some of these communities. Our targeted audience are disengaged and or emerging champions and citizens and at the neighborhood level. We think that some of the issues or the needs are that people have not been invited to the table. They feel like they don't have a voice and that they're not connected at all at this point. We would like to try to pique interest, have some sort of way to outreach and invite them to the table and give them permission to create. And underneath all that, we want to infuse an element of fun. So the activities that we were talking about has to do with, the guerrilla tactics. The idea of gifting in some format, whether they're drops, we really have to flesh out what that would be, but we really like the concept of guerrilla gifting. We like the idea of flash mob action. So whether we go to a park and have a spontaneous meal that we all bring food in some random place, all meet together and try to engage citizens, bring music, put a piano on a corner, I love that concept, and just see what happens. And just that spontaneous surprise element to try to get people talking to us in some way. We talked about like quick art, mobile art, drop some paint and some art supplies and just see what kids do. We talked about putting a bounce house somewhere and just like letting people have fun. So those were some of the activities that we thought about, and I'm gonna hand it over to my buddy to talk about some of this area in here. Thank you.
So, under resources, we thought, first we need to kind of brand the guerrilla tactics, so when people see it, they're not afraid of it, they don't know what it is, they don't participate because they don't know. So we thought PR, marketing, and branding, and a sort of a catchy phrase, or getting a TV station to partner with us to help branding. And then we also need to engage social media, and developing a communication strategy and language that we can all use, not just from guerrilla tactics, but also to GoCreate, to the hub. We're all talking the same thing, but it's simple and people can understand it, kind of wrap their arms around it. So we all have the same talking points. And then we infuse this with some primary data. An example of this would be like, I don't know if you guys saw that pop-up event that they had out here where they were honoring soldiers. So along the pathway of wherever our pop-up event will be, we'll have the data. So people understand they're walking into an experience. You know, they kind of get hints and cues along the way what they're going to be discussing. Or basically we're just kind of undergirding that with primary data and intelligence gathering from local champions.
Local champions or experts.
Right. And then from there, we're going to develop an action plan that includes the budget, identifying possible funders, and other cross-sector partners.
The outcomes. The outcomes of it, it would be that people who want to be connected will get a chance to be connected. Then elements of fun can be mobilized to everybody. So really testing those ideas of the basic ideas to bring people together. That people, we will discover that people want to speak and to act. So kind of crossing the assumption that people don't want to engage. We give them that opportunity. And we create the interest. So we know top of our head with the research we have done, this community we want to go, and the interest will be raised then. Then the loss is affordable. We're not really investing on it. It's going to be a very minimal thing. And how will we measure the success? The number of people who will come. So this is very tangible. We know we're engaging the community. The gift acceptance rate. If the case is that we drop the gift, so really see what people are going to do with that gift. How the gift is actually creating a footprint to go after. And then we're going to gather stories. In the case that people come to us on other pop-up events, people will come to us and then we gather stories and narratives. And then we will create the platform to move toward the GoCreate. You want to continue on?
Okay, and so we identified kind of like our action plan is we need to have a really solid brainstorm session to kind of flesh out some of our ideas, and that's for everyone. The most ideas that we can get, really creative kind of revolutionary concepts of how we can engage the community. Then hone in with our guerrilla group, I hate steering committee, that term, so our guerrilla group will get together and develop a more strategic action plan and communications and key deliverables that we want to kind of achieve. And then we need to secure our resources, and that's probably going to be through our larger network here. We wanted to actually do some testing, test some ideas, the prototype phase. And then after that, maybe take back our information to the bigger group, see what you guys say, what's going to work, and then from there, launch some winning ideas that we think have actually shown through a test process that it's working.
Yeah, we see this as like the tipping point. So creating the buzz that creates the tipping point, and it's so innovative and out there. We thought it's the invitation. So we thought we would create a gorilla hand, a big gorilla hand, and say, take my gift. And if you take the gift and you move, you're moving towards action. You're moving towards GoCreate.
All right, after we have this amazing way to really engage and entice, get some attention around this idea, here we are, we're creating a mobile hub that introduces and connects the community to the hub, which you'll see in just a moment. So, our audience here is plain and simple people, adults, children, professionals, residents, communities, who want to innovate change that builds healthy environments and healthy communities. Now, we've identified our needs as one, connectivity. There's a lack, a significant lack in that area, and the need for inclusion, for being a part of the solution, instead of always being identified as maybe So here are our activities where we're going to do an introduction of equipping them. We talked about that empathy phase, that empathy step, and we also identified the ideates that where we promote the creative kitchen for a more deeper level of engaging and skill building. So, Cindy.
Okay, yeah, so this is the equipping and support for the design cycle. So, here we go, resources, equipment, so mobile unit, tables, tents, audio, visual, food, music, to just bring in the space for connectivities. You think about the we, the me, the we, the we. So we want conocimiento, we want people to get to know each other and begin this empathy piece of it. So all of those things in mobiles to bring them together. We know that we will also need a curriculum and facilitators for when they come in together. We know we will need a budget. All of those items have a cost to them. So food, music, all of those things, we know we will have to make our compelling case to funders. And I'm thinking, quick, since we're betting small, sponsorships are really good. Those are less details, get sponsorships, especially for those entities that very easy, it's connecting with something in community, $2,000, $3,000. We need a kid zone. So, it was a great observation in our first trial that we see the adults, what are the kids going to do? So we've got to be very intentional about a kid zone. And let's see, we know we are going to need participant summary reports for the handoff to the hub. So we want to give, we are pitching here so that you all can hit it out of the park. So we want to give you some information about who these people are. And then here we go, outcomes. The assumptions that we're testing, that people want to be connected, that people want to be included. And solutions, we are testing that people have ideas for change and solution. We're testing the fact that location makes a difference. How we will measure our success is the number of participants and the groups, the number of sessions that we're providing, and participant check-ins. We want to do qualitative surveys, but we want participant check-ins. We can measure that. We want feedback loop from the phase 3 from the hub. And we want the number, we can measure the number of handoffs to the hub. So many of the timeline will be tied to the guerrilla tactics. And we can get to this yet.
So I did identify some barriers. So this feedback loop, just to reiterate, this feedback loop is really important. Because if we're handing off a group that we believe is ready for change and for more in-depth training, and we don't get that feedback from you that we're missing a component or two, then the groups that we're handing off are not ready, and we need to know that. So that's that feedback loop from phase 3 back to phase 2 and back to phase 1. And that's going to be a really important critical piece for us to be able to succeed.
And to keep it all connected.
So action plan is to put an action plan together.
Hey, we included that too.
How do we need to have a meeting?
I call it
We need a design team together around this entire concept, which I think will happen hopefully this afternoon. And then identification of trainers, that's the only two that I have there. But some barriers that I'm seeing that could be some challenges for us as I'm listening to phase 1 and phase 2 and yet to hear phase 3 is a coordination of timeline. That's going to be really important for us to be able to do that. A coordination of curriculum. So phase 1 and phase 2, we really have to have a coordination so that we are providing what phase 3 participants need, and that we're not falling over ourselves on that. And then the other challenge is the acceptance of the concept in our area, wherever we are, whether it's Fresno, Merced, Modesto, wherever, it's that acceptance of the concept that we are bringing to our community.
Good. create mobile.
Something like that. I don't get stuck on the
Phase two, I should think of phase two.
There's another thing I just like to say, it keeps coming to me that, there's sort of the way sometimes we talk about training and education and all those kinds of things, it feels like what we're preparing people for is just deeper, relationships and learning, right? These experiences of deeper relationship and learning. And so somehow I think that has a real positive sense to it versus even equipping. It's kind of like saying you don't have the equipment, right?
So I think first thing we want to say is that although we see the 4 stages, outreach, preparation, design process and training, and then back out for implementation and testing. You follow me there through what the 4 things we're talking about? We worry that we won't have enough capacity in the 3rd step, design process and training, to go in that order. And we worry that if we're out doing the outreach and the preparation, you're going to be sending them to a 3rd step that we're not going to be able to handle yet. And so I'm going to start with the timeline. We think that we should establish a track record first for doing this successfully with some existing networks and groups that we know already exist. And invite them to participate in the design process that we've planned and developed. Help them go through and acquire the tools, develop the training and the modules, so that they're able to learn and apply them to the problem that they're already, right, have been working on, and to surround them with some cross-sector, right, collaborative relationships that'll help them be more successful in the effort they're already engaging in. And by the end of 3 years, we may have taken an existing, maybe 2 existing, and maybe a couple, 3 neighborhood groups through that process, and at the same time be building our network, our capacity to be able to do this right in a flywheel.
Yeah, you test it first with maybe more of a captive audience.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
So I don't know, to go back through here, we just took the original goal. The goal of GoCreate is to innovate feasible solutions, equip leaders to help build healthy neighborhoods, increase safety, health, education, and entrepreneurial outcomes. The audience is independent communities who then go through a process to become networked communities.
And community could be defined as just initially at the start and long-term. Kurt was sharing, brought it up that community could be defined as neighborhood, leader, I mean, just, it could be defined as anything, not just neighborhood, but just any
Age group,
any entity, any
ethnic group, school.
I think the one thing that we're feeling is that they'll have in common is that they have a problem that they want to solve. Like they'll.
So that's the need.
Yeah,
They
that's
have
the
a
need, right.
something they're
right,
trying to overcome.
Right, right. And the intent, they may be already networked, but they may not be networked well, and so that's a real intentional piece in terms of the audience. And then the needs, so what unmet needs are we meeting? A lack of contextual intelligence. So that's sort of the underpinning of the reality that we're missing that. We continue to miss that in solution making. Silo-driven solutions and the power of managed and connected networks, that is not being realized. And then the activities, human-centered solution making, using local trained facilitators and train-the-trainer process, and then network management. So continuing to really stay intentional about the fact that managing the documentation of those networks and who is included in that network and how these networks are connected.
You do get asked that every 4 years.
Are you better off?
And initially, we may want to, those tools that we're suggesting, we may want to measure them in a more qualitative way. And then from there, as we build traction, build more kind of quantitative tools that we can. And we may decide, you know, over time, if this isn't set in stone, that we may just do a post only, because you don't know what you don't know at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And so it may be that at post, like, oh, wait a minute, okay, I built this skill, or I didn't build this skill, and at the beginning, you weren't able to articulate that. So this is something that could involve a developmental evaluation.
That's all we have on the.
Yep.
Dr. J, you guys really thought through that timeline.
So I would rather fail amongst us,
Yeah.
rather than bring it to community and then, oh, that's another, oh, they're, those guys again coming back. And
I'm actually really blown away by what you guys have produced. I've never seen this happen like this before. This is really incredible, and I think a testament to the way you as a leadership community have handled it. But it was just interesting to go from, this is about an hour and a half ago. We had a couple of, we had 4 different prototype solutions, and you've created this organically, this really interesting integrated solution, and the fluidity with which all of you have kind of flown between them is really, it was pretty cool to sit back and observe and see how it happened. So amazing progress in a very short period of time. Does this feel more crisp to you guys? You feel like we're landing? Awesome. All right. Well, I think we're ready for a break.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is, everybody, we've got lunch here. We can go in the other room as we did before and eat there. And let's take about a half.